Now, that was Khairy's explanation. However, is it enough to squash the public's queries on MySejahtera? Here to discuss this is Editor-in-Chief of Code Blue, Bu Sulin. Thank you for joining us, Sulin. Now, I'm sure you've heard of KJ's explanation regarding this issue just now. So do you think his explanation is enough to answer all the questions raised prior to this?
Hi Farhanan, thanks for having me. I think that KJ's very lengthy explanation in the Dewan Negara today does go a long way in assuaging some of our doubts about the app. So crucially, he maintains that a non-disclosure agreement with the app developer, KPI Soft, states very clearly that any and all data collected through MySejahtera belongs solely to the government. And this is also confirmed by a share sale agreement between two MySJ Sendirian Berhad shareholders, GWC Asia Sendirian Berhad and P2 Asset Management Sendirian Berhad, which has been disclosed in the ongoing court case between MySJ shareholders. So that share sale agreement also does state clearly that the trademark and data collected through the operation of MySejahtera is owned by the Malaysian government. So on the other point about KJ asserting that the government owns the MySejahtera's intellectual property rights and source code and modules, that we have not heard any of the involved companies making any statement yet. So it will be interesting to see how they respond to KJ maintaining that the government owns MySejahtera's IP rights and source code.
So, Sulin, over the past few days, many have voiced their concerns about using this app. Do you think the public's perception or trust towards the app suffered in the few days that this issue exploded?
For sure. The public's trust has been greatly affected over the current controversy over MySejahtera. You can see this by the decline in MySejahtera check-ins after the PAC's report on MySejahtera was published. MySejahtera check-ins dropped by 26% when the controversy broke out. So clearly it has had some impact.
So clearly the issue of data security here is pertinent based on the ongoing public conversations. However, in the event of future pandemics, you think, what kind of changes are needed for the MySejahtera model?
I think before we go there, while KJ has been very transparent and forthcoming in explaining the MySejahtera issue, I mean, he took it upon himself to go to the Senate to explain clearly what transpired before, to clarify exactly who owns the app and crucially our personal data. And he did this in the Senate rather than the Dewan Rakyat, because obviously the Dewan Rakyat isn't currently sitting. So KJ should be recognized for his efforts in really going the extra mile to explain this and to try and regain public trust. Whether public trust can be regained through his explanation today remains to be seen. I think that the government still needs to continue to explain what has happened and also to clarify the status of negotiations with MySJ Sendirian Berhad, and especially what is the price that the government is paying to obtain services for the app. So we need to get all of that settled first, because whatever the government pays for the app is, of course, taxpayers' money. So we have a right to know how much the government is paying for it. So once that has been resolved, then we can talk about future use of the app. But I feel like talking about future use of the app right now, when the issue is still relatively murky, despite KJ's explanation, that is a bit premature, I think.
So, Sulin, after all this, right, do you think MySejahtera is still an effective tool in managing COVID-19 in our country, or is it time for us to consider other methods?
So MySejahtera is used for a lot of things, as KJ mentioned. It's not only to store our vaccine passports, which we need when we travel overseas, and it's not just for checking in at premises, as KJ himself acknowledges. Once we transition to endemicity, contact tracing may not really be that relevant anymore, and he foresees possibly doing away with it in a couple of weeks' time. But then MySejahtera is also primarily used by the Ministry of Health for people to report their positive test results, and more importantly, for positive COVID cases to use the app to fill in their daily health assessments. This is so that the Ministry of Health will be able to know very quickly if someone's condition deteriorates and to get that person immediate access to care to prevent the brought-in dead cases. So that is actually very crucial. And I understand why the government, why the Ministry of Health feels that it still needs the app, because it really is beyond contact tracing. I think what is the most important thing here is that we need we need a tool for people to monitor their own health conditions, even when we transition to endemicity, so that we reduce as much as we can deaths from COVID-19 or brought-in dead cases.